So here's my 2004 GMC. To get to the driver side control, this is the controls on my truck. To get to the driver side blend door actuator, you actually have to take four screws out of this cover, which I've already done. And you should be able to pull this cover and set it aside. Once that's been done, locate your wire going and you connect it to your actuator, and you can unplug it. And then there's two screws that I've taken loose on this one. Hard one hand. And I'm ready to put on the new one. So I put on the new actuator. Got it from eBay. Seemed to fit fine. Said it was a fit for my truck. Everything seems normal. Only problem was it worked once, and after it went to heat, I think it over traveled, and basically current faulted. I don't know if internally it picked up a fault or the actual output from the truck actually limited or cut it off. But now, after resetting it, I don't know if you can see on the video. I'll get a little closer. Sorry for the shakiness. That's the indicator where center on the heat control should be centered up, and that's pretty close. Going all the way cold seems to be fine. Yep. And I know heat does go past the mark on the other side. Going back to heat now. That's when it over travels, and you can hear it have a hard current hit, and then it quits. So nice. I had installed that, and it checked fine. Then I installed it and it didn't work, and that's why. So I took it back off. So we'll investigate this a little further. Okay, it's 5 clips. I just had to take the screwdriver and ease up under those 5 clips, and it started raising off. So hopefully I can do this with one hand. And yeah, that was it's a little potentiometer on the board that gear fits in. It's keyed. You can see that little flat spot, the little key there. It fits on that board. I'm having some kind of issue with the over travel. Tell you what, I'm gonna put these on the bench side by side with the old one and compare, because this is a totally different design with the pot. The other one had a built-in resistor strip on the board. You'll see it. It's got the wipers on the gear. In other words, the position is built into the gear. There's really no way to get it off. This one, yeah, I don't know from the fact that it was already off or something just ain't working right, but yeah, you can obviously see that one could easily get out of position. No. So I'm here on the bench, and I do have them here side by side. I hadn't taken the cover off the original one. Well, not again. I have done this about 6 or 8 months ago. Knew I was having trouble and looked into this a little bit. So gently try not to break the clips if you can help it. Sorry, I'm trying to watch it on camera as well. As you can see them side by side. Similar, but the main difference is in that the feedback. You can see on this one, it's pretty neat how the wiper's built into the main gear, so therefore the feedback and the position will never really get out of sync. What I'd had issues with before is some of the grease off the gears getting on the wiper, and I cleaned it up and it did seem to help, but it did get some more on there again, so I'm going to clean that off again in a few minutes. But you can see there's a little bit on there, but not near as much. When I did take it apart about 6 months ago, it really was a lot of gunk from the gears on there. So I decided to go ahead and replace it for the money on eBay, and that, because it is hard to get to. It's nothing to replacing it, but it is kind of hard to get to. But you can see on this one, there's the problem. Even brand new, this can easily get out of position, and apparently something was wrong even from the factory, because it's a little, it looks almost like a MOSFET or something, but that's actually a little flat pack potentiometer. This been mounted on the surface of and through a hole on the board, and then with this gear fitting in it, it does the feedback. Now I am going to play with this a little bit and try to get it, but it kind of bothers me that from the factory even it was already out of position. We'll play with it and see if we can get it in position, and see if it's even worth going forward with putting it on. Alright, back at the truck, got the ignition switch on. Gonna plug this in, and it's trying to rotate. I'm gonna use that with the big gear hooked to the encoder feedback, or the pot feedback actually. Yep, that was just enough. I had it towards cold, and I actually have the driver's side down to cold on the slide switch as well, or the climate control switch. All I have to do is barely bump that and it changes direction, so hopefully the camera can pick up that slight movement. And then if I hold it there, I know that should be all the way to cold. Then I'll insert the gear for timing, maybe. Alright, so that's cold. It's passed. I got this, it's still on the new one. The one I got from eBay. I'm just going to check a few things on the bench here. I'm ohming across, like the counterclockwise and the clockwise will be of that potentiometer, 8K. That seems a little odd. It might be a 8K. Let me go across the wiper in the middle to the left one. 5K. As I move it, the potentiometer seems to be working. But I'm betting sorry, trying to get it back on there. It don't have a conformal coating on the board, but it is some leftover flux on the board or something that's making it tough to get on. I did get it back going and centered it up with the truck slide control, and we'll see what it measures here. Maybe 4 points. Well, should have done that to start with, really. It's close to center. It ain't too far off. Okay. I think I'm going to just put it back together right there in the center and I will give it one more try. If it over travels with the center being close, chances are it's something actually wrong with the scale of that potentiometer on the board. So we'll give it a shot. All right, back in the GMC. Let's see. Okay, engaged all the teeth and meshing on the gears, and it did center up. You can see that mark on there. It did center up, it seemed. I also have to make sure that little feedback gear on that pot don't move a whole lot. It does affect it a little, and it can even pop off because you can actually see the shaft is actually mounted on the top cover to hold it from popping off. All the way cold, which seems to always work. No problems. Go back to center. Fine. I'm gonna go slightly warmer again, and all that seems to be fine. Something's telling me if I go all the way to heat, wide open again, it's gonna go and fault out. Let's see. All the way. Yep. It kind of took off. I put it back to cold, and it actually kept going, so that let me know that the pot actually switched over at that point. Now, one thing you're probably thinking, because I already showed you the stops for the gear, that I let it go past the stops for the gear, and that's true, I did. But it really should have never went to that point. It never should have went to the stop on the cover, the actual end stop, much less going to the other gear. So yeah, something's going on with either with the pot on the board or the way they designed the stroke of it. Back to the drawing board. All right, at this point, I've started, I forgot to start the camera, but I've started cleaning up this wiper. That's a known problem on the original, and like I said, the original, it was just having trouble with sometimes it would like fluctuate, especially on cold. We're here in Georgia, we use the AC a lot, so on the heat it didn't do it so much. It stayed on and didn't make noise, but it was making a lot of noise on cold, where it was kind of popping. And I don't think it's really that loud itself, but going through the ductwork kind of amplifies it. So unless you got the radio on, it's pretty annoying going down the road just when this thing's trying to position. So anyway, I'm just using some somewhere above 90% alcohol. I like to shoot for the 99 if I can find it, but I'm just taking an alcohol swab, and I'm going to attempt to clean this up some more. I don't know if this is my only problem or not, but it did. Like I said, 6 to 8 months ago, I'm not sure I'd done this one time, and it did work for a while. And I'm gonna clean up this gear, and the copper contact points look great, but I'm gonna clean them up while I got to the part, of course. We're gonna put this one back on the original and just see if it does any different. All right, back here in the truck, gonna plug it up. It's going towards cold, and it did vibrate a little, but it stopped where it should. Center position. The center. I'm just gonna throw it all the way to heat. I never had any trouble with the heat parts. If I could just get to up and do that, it'd be great. but it seems to be working okay. It doesn't seem to be making noise. So go back to center. Awesome. Let's give it a shot. That's it. By the way, if you don't have a little thumb ratchet, it's really gonna come in handy with some of this stuff. It's really tight. The screws on mine, like I said, mine's a 2004 GMC. They're 5.5 millimeter. Just about all I had is 5.5 millimeter, but it did help. Or, if you're a country boy like me, 7/32. So, yeah, it's a lifesaver. I'm gonna spare you the torture of watching me put this back, but I'll plug it up and we'll try it out in just a minute. So it's all back in. I actually couldn't get the camera on today good enough for you to see it work too well, but warmer. You can definitely tell it's cooler. I can actually feel it with my finger moving. It's actually giving no problems now. Guess I'll just keep the old one in there, not popping or making any sound. Just putting the damper or the blend order, the cold with no problem. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go to the fuse panel so I can get a good line up on that. I got the little fuse puller just from the factory. I pulled it off. If we look here at the layout, the 10 amp HVAC one, we're going to pull that one. And if we look at it like on the, just like on the layout, it's going to be 10, 30, then 10. So what's that one right there? We're going to leave that out a few minutes. So right now, on my 2004 GMC, I have pulled that fuse. And I don't know if you have to or not, but I cut the ignition on to make sure it drained, cut it back off. Waited a while, then I put the fuse back in. 2 clicks on the ignition. You don't start the vehicle up, just rotate it clockwise 2 clicks, and hopefully you can hear that sound. Is I think they're taking turns, but each actuator is actually trying to calibrate, so it's going through a self-calibration process. So we'll see how it goes. Several minutes into it, and they're still going back and forth. I believe the one I'm working on for the driver blend door, I think it just stopped, so it may be through calibrating, but I still hear a little more. No, it started back. This one actually has started back, so it's pulsing back and forth. It does it a lot more times than you think. I don't know if it's actually having some issues because it's so far out of percentage of cal, or if that's common every time, but I'm definitely going to give it, it's probably been 2 or 3 minutes. It's probably going to take at least 5 to 10, but you definitely want to make sure, that it is through, because you don't want to interrupt the calibration process. So after giving it about 10 minutes or so, I did finally cut the ignition off, cut it back on now to do a test. All the way cold, all the way warm. Yep, moved all the way. Stop, no humming, no jumping. Move it back to the center position. It's moving just fine. I wish I could show you that, but it is moving fine now. All the way back to cold. So after recalibrating, that did get it. So if you're having issues with your 2004 GMC, maybe recalibration is all it takes to get that going. So basically what I found was, even with the new actuator, sometimes you have to do that calibration when you replace it. And you can pull the AC fuse and then wait a little bit and put it back in, and then turn your ignition switch to like the accessory mode, and then let them recalibrate. I think it can take up to a few minutes to calibrate. And sometimes you just have to disconnect like your negative terminal from your battery and just let it sit for a few minutes undone. And then when you hook it back up and turn your key to accessory, they'll do the same thing. Then they'll calibrate. So once I got the new one to calibrate this time, it did seem to be fine. So I'm going to give it a shot and see how it goes.